Hey everyone, so I'm back with another video, and this is going to be a conversation that is very much so needed. I will be offering an alternative perspective as always. So let's get into it. So the title of this video is called Workplace Discrimination Against Women. And I am presenting a post that I've been seeing floating around Facebook mostly for a while now. When I first saw it a couple of days ago, I said, I looked at the title, which says it right here. It says, "Why is it only women who see sexism everywhere?" Right. So I just immediately I saw it and I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh Lord, like here we go, another one of these conversations. Then a trusted friend posted this, and I was like, maybe I'll sit down and actually read through this post, read through this content to see what's in it. And I'm happy I did, because after, looking over this post, I was inspired to make this video. Okay. Now, I'll start by saying this. We all know that workplace discrimination against women exists, right? We all know that women are challenged with people not respecting them as much, people ignoring them, sexual harassment, the wage gap, and other problems in the workplace. Okay, we all know this, especially if you're a woman who has been out into the work world. You've probably experienced some of these things yourself, and especially if you're a woman of color. So kind of like the systemic institutional disrespect is compounded by both your gender and your race. Okay. Now, there's a lot of us that us individual women cannot control when it comes to institutional and systemic discrimination based on our gender and our sex. We can't control a lot of this, but you know what we can control? We can control the dynamics in our personal relationships. And I think this isn't a conversation that we have enough. A lot of women complain for good reason. They complain for good reason about all the discrimination that they face in the workplace. Okay. However, I think a lot of women fail to realize how much power they have in their personal relationships. And I will use this example right here in this post to explain some things that you probably haven't really heard much of, especially if you're new to this channel. And especially if you're not familiar with the quote unquote hypergamy content or level up content on YouTube, okay, or just in social media in general. Now, I'm just going to say this before I get into the post. Because of all of the discrimination women face in the workplace, because of the sexual harassment, because of the pay, the wage gap, because of just the general disrespect that a lot of women face, the invisibility women have to deal with, because of the lack of thought about a woman worker in the workplace, women should really start to double down on the power they have in their personal relationships. And what do I mean when I say that? I mean, because a woman has to deal with all of this in the workplace, because men have it so much easier in the workplace, no woman should be entertaining a man who doesn't provide for her. Men have a natural advantage in the workplace due to the fact that the corporate world, a lot of these institutions, a lot of these corporations cater to the male worker. They are designed for the success of the male worker. Now, if you're a woman in a relationship, you have a man in your life, he wants to be with you. There is no reason why you should be paying for anything in his presence. Because if you and him enter the same workplace, the same position, do the same amount of work, the same type of work, that man on average will get paid more than you due to the gender wage gap. That man will be respected more than you due to the sexist nature of a lot of corporations and a lot of corporate America, or just in general in the world. It's worse in other countries. And due to the sexual harassment he will not have to experience because he's male. So if a man is granted with all these advantages because they don't have to deal with all these things that have to do with working in the workplace, then there is absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be able to advance in his job or position in order to fully provide and take care of the woman and be the breadwinner. Now, I read an article recently. I can't remember which. I think maybe it was like from the Brookings Institute or something like that, from a think tank, or it was definitely from a reputable source. I might go look it up, but you can just look this up yourself. But now, as of 2020, there are more female breadwinners in American households than men. So that means on average, women making most of the money is now the norm. And that's completely absurd because men don't have to face half of what women go through in the workplace. So they have all the advantage, they have less obstacles, less challenges to go through, yet they are making less than their wives. And I think that's absolutely absurd. And women have a lot more power than men in these individual intimate relationships. Women set the tone in these relationships. They don't realize it, but they do. If you tell a man you're too tired and therefore you can't get intimate with him because you've been working all day, that man eventually will be like, oh, dang, okay, well, I'll work. You can stay home a little bit more and I'll work. This is why women should not be entertaining men who do not provide for them, because they already have the advantage to be providers. They don't have to face half of the obstacles women have to face in the work world. So there's absolutely no excuse, and it's ridiculous. It's putting a double burden on women to be paying half of anything in a household or for anything in a household and have to go out and work and face all the discrimination that I mentioned before, which is sexual harassment, disrespect, the wage gap, so on and so forth. Okay? The lack of maternal leave opportunities for women. So I'm going to get into this post, and this is just going to be an example of how women kind of face this workplace discrimination that largely goes unaddressed. And the solution that I propose is the solution is that women not deal with men who aren't providers. Like if your man isn't providing, you should really reevaluate that relationship because men have it easier in the workplace. There's no reason why he shouldn't be fully providing for you because you have a lot more obstacles to face in the workplace. Okay. So I'll read this. Why is it only women who see sexism everywhere? Okay. So this guy talks about how Nicole and I worked for a small employment service firm, and one complaint always came from our boss. She took too long to work with clients. Okay. It says, as her supervisor, I considered this a minor nuisance. As a supervisor, I considered this a minor nuisance at best. I figured the reason I got things done faster was from having more experience. So one day I'm emailing a client back and forth about his resume, and he is just being impossible, rude, dismissive, ignoring my questions, telling me his methods were the industry standards. They weren't. And I could understand the terms he used and how I couldn't understand the terms he used, and I could. Okay. It was Nicole he was being rude to, not me. So out of curiosity, I said, hey, this is Martin. I'm taking over this project for Nicole. Immediate improvement. Positive reception, thanking me for suggestions, responds promptly, saying great questions, became a model client. No, my technique and advice never changed. The only difference was that I had a man's name now. We did an experiment. For 2 weeks, we switched names. I signed all client emails as Nicole. He signed me. She signed as me. Folks, it fucking sucked. So they switched places. I was in hell. Everything I asked or suggested was questioned. Clients I could do in my sleep were condescending. One asked me if I was single. Nicole had the most productive week of her career. I realized the reason she took longer is because she had to convince clients to respect her. By the time she could get clients to accept that she knew what she was doing, I could get halfway through another client. I wasn't any better at the job than she was. I just had this invisible advantage. Okay. So you have a man here explaining how men have the advantage in the workplace. Okay. So, and you know what? As a whole, women protesting, women making a fuss about this to these corporations, to these institutions that hire us, won't make as much of an impact as if we prioritize taking the power in our personal relationships. That is my argument. My argument is that if women expected our male counterparts that want to be in intimate relationships with us, want to be our boyfriends, want to be our partners, want to be our husbands, if they took these relationships, take their power back in these relationships, this wouldn't be as big of an issue. If women demanded that our intimate partners were the main providers and the main breadwinners, this would be less of an issue. Right? And I know a lot of people will sit here and say, well, not all men. Not all men, right? And yes, not all men will perpetrate this type of discrimination against women. However, if men collectively say, hey, why don't we be more respectful and make it easier for women to work, things would change. So since they're not doing that, and since at the same time, a lot of men will go to work just to have access to women, we should use that type of capital, that type of quote unquote erotic capital. It's a sociological term coined by Catherine Hakeem. You can look it up. To empower ourselves and get what we want, things will be a little bit better. No woman, so this is my suggested solution. No woman should accept a male partner if he is not providing. Point blank, period. If a man wants anything to do with you, he should be providing for you. Because structurally, systemically, and institutionally, it's easier for them. As you can see by this post, as you can see how this post demonstrated this reality. Okay. So that is it. Thank you for watching. I noticed I didn't really get any chats today, but just on a more serious note, I made this video because a lot of people, they sit there and they're like, well, why? Equality. Men and women should go 50-50. Why should a man take care of a woman? Why should a man provide? Because when women actually do go out into the workplace to try to provide for themselves while they're in relationships, which I think is crazy, they have to face sexual harassment. They have to face the wage gap. They are challenged by disrespect. They are challenged by workplace discrimination. Men have it so much easier to go to work and to bring home the bacon. That's how they put it. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be doing that. There's no reason why women should suffer doubly. There's no reason why women should suffer in a relationship and be expected to provide half of anything or anything while she's with a man, while at the same time go out and face workplace discrimination. If a man really cared about a woman, he wouldn't want his woman to go out, work under another man, and be sexually harassed, get paid less than a man for the same work, and be disrespected. Playboy, hey Playboy. Here for some daily simping. It's not simping. Playboy, it's not simping if you have it. It's not. And obviously you have it. Thank you. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. But I think this message really should get, across to a lot of women, because they are getting the short end of the stick. They're going home to these men who expect them to pay half of the bills while working at a corporation or working at a job that disrespects them daily by paying them less than they would pay a man, by subjecting them to sexual harassment, by not respecting them as much, by making them invisible, by not listening to them. So, but anyway, Playably says, you spin facts though. I work with women. I mean, it's true. They face a lot of discrimination. And so the last thing that they should do, so if a woman has to go to work and face discrimination from a man and then come home to a man that expects her to pay half the bills, like why, what's the point of even having a man? What's the point? It makes no sense. I don't get it. It makes absolutely no sense. But I have to go. Thank you so much, Playably, for coming through. I really appreciate you. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment. You can leave me an email or hit up my Instagram if you have any personal questions. I do take some questions for advice and then turn the question into a video to address kind of the want for advice. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye.